At 27, I was in the 10th year of my long romance with Marco. He married me, yet behind my back, he started dating a young girl. At a gathering with friends, he coaxed her. Be good. Actually, we never got a marriage certificate. After that day, I also started dating someone younger. I coaxed him the way Marco did. See? I told you. We never got a marriage certificate. Chapter 1. Our homeroom teacher said that, even after all these years, the story of Marco and me dating too early was still something people love to talk about. At 17, at the start of senior year, Marco stuffed a love letter into my desk. After the homeroom teacher discovered it, she invited both sets of parents to the office. I nervously stared at the tips of my shoes, not daring to say a word. But Marco raised his head with certainty, facing the gazes of all the adults, and took the initiative to speak. Elena is first in the grade, and I'm second. We're a perfect match. The tension vanished instantly. I could not hold back and burst out laughing. The homeroom teacher was so angry that she told Marco and me to go back to the classroom for self-study. Not long after, the homeroom teacher angrily called Marco and me out again. That day, my parents and Marco's parents exchanged contact information. Marco and I had similar grades, and our families were of similar status. In front of the homeroom teacher, they said, as long as you two get into the same university, you can get engaged after graduation. For a while, Marco kept bringing this up, showing it off to everyone he met. Later, he even pinned a post on his social feed. What does it feel like to get called in for puppy love, only to receive blessings from both sets of parents? The attached photo was our engagement photo. But now, 10 years had passed since the beginning of the story. Hearing our homeroom teacher bring up the past, Marco frowned slightly. It's been so long. Why are you still bringing that up? Chapter 2. Marco at 27. It was as if he had suddenly become a different person. This change was sudden, yet also gradual. For example, today, it was the school's 50th anniversary celebration. I had received the invitation a month ago. Marco originally did not want to come, but for some unknown reason, he suddenly changed his mind. Another example was this morning. On the drive to school, we had just had an argument. In the past 10 years, Marco had never once lost his temper at me, but in the past 3 months, it had happened extremely often. The homeroom teacher did not hear the helplessness or impatience in Marco's tone. She even sounded a little emotional. There are many students who date too early, but very few end up together like you two. I gave a dry laugh, because I truly did not know whether Marco and I counted as having ended up together. Fortunately, the homeroom teacher did not dwell on it, and Marco happened to go out to answer a call. We chatted casually. People gradually entered the auditorium one after another. Marco stood at the entrance, his gaze sweeping over the room again and again, as if he were looking for someone, until a girl walked in. When she brushed past Marco, the two of them seemed to say something to each other. The homeroom teacher asked me, "You're married, right?" I withdrew my gaze from Marco and tugged at the corner of my mouth. Sort of. Chapter 3. When Marco sat back beside me, that girl followed him over too. She naturally sat down on Marco's other side, leaning forward slightly. She glanced at me. I did not know if it was my imagination, but I felt her gaze pause on the ring finger of my left hand for several seconds before moving away. She waved toward me and the homeroom teacher. "Teacher, you didn't recognize me?" The homeroom teacher thought for a while before crying out in surprise. "Are you Victoria?" I did not know Victoria, but this morning, Marco and I had argued because of a phone call, and the contact name on that call was Victoria. Victoria had also been our homeroom teacher's student, 7 years younger than us. From what the homeroom teacher said, Victoria had done well on the college entrance exam, but her family favored sons over daughters. She did not even know whether Victoria had successfully enrolled in university. Victoria took the initiative to explain. "I applied for student loans, and I'm doing very well now." "Right. Senior?" The senior she referred to was Marco. Marco did not answer directly. Instead, he reached out and pulled her leaning body back, reminding her, "Sit properly." Victoria was wearing a tight cropped top. When she leaned forward, a small section of her waist was exposed. I let out a laugh. I did not miss the homeroom teacher's somewhat stunned gaze, nor did I look at the two of them again. Chapter 4. I left early. Marco only glanced at me lightly. Suit yourself. I let out a scoff. The wedding ring I had taken off was clenched in my palm, hurting so much it dug into my skin. 3 months ago, after Marco lost his wedding ring, he replaced it with a plain silver band. I complained a little. It feels like you don't love me as much as before. It was clearly the kind of line I used when acting cute and clingy before. But that day, from his mouth, it became me being unreasonable. When Victoria greeted the homeroom teacher, she deliberately used her left hand. I saw it. On her hand was the same plain silver band. I casually threw my ring into the trash can beside the parking lot, making a clear, crisp sound. It sounded much better than the sound of Marco smashing our couple mugs during that argument. Autumn had already begun, but the weather was still muggy. Only after sitting in the car and turning on the air conditioner did I dare to take a few deep breaths. At this point, I felt as if I had expected it. Marco probably had too. That pinned post of his had already been unpinned before our wedding. When the phone rang, I was driving aimlessly. If I saw a red light, I turned right. If I saw a green light, I drove straight ahead. It was my best friend calling, asking me to save her from an emergency and pick up her younger brother. Yes, my brother. My new younger brother. Different father and different mother. I froze. After a long while, I finally remembered how excited she had sounded on the phone a few days ago. Do you understand, Elena? My mom finally met true love. I'm really happy for her. The chaotic emotions seemed to be suddenly paused. I curved my lips along with her. Okay, then I'll go to the airport now. My best friend said that once she came back from her business trip, she would treat Marco and me to dinner. I paused and finally made a decision. I don't plan to keep Marco anymore. Chapter 5. To be honest, I no longer knew how long this thought had been circling in my mind. Maybe 1 year, maybe 2. After Marco and I successfully got into the same university, our college admission banquet and engagement banquet were held together. Back then, Marco was young and still a little immature. He wrapped an arm around my shoulders and, not knowing how vast the world was, promised, in this life, I, Marco, only want Elena. But what could I do? I believed him, and at that time, he truly had not lied to me. Only later, as our differences grew, Marco did not argue with me. He coaxed me instead. But I still became more and more clearly aware that the relationship between the two of us did not seem as unbreakable as I had imagined. So what had been agreed as marriage after university graduation turned into my parents urging him again and again, until last year, when we held our wedding. The airport was some distance away. It would take me an hour to drive there. During that time, Marco sent me a message. Something came up today. I may not come home tonight. Don't wait for me. After I unpinned him from my contacts, Marco's messages were pushed further and further down by one message after another. Before, I had wanted to reply to him instantly. Now, I did not even feel like opening the chat, until Marco's profile picture disappeared from the list. Marco had never stayed out overnight before, probably because he knew that I knew, so he was too lazy to even pretend anymore. Chapter 6. I called Marco's assistant. Marco's assistant was a student my parents had once sponsored. When he heard me ask about Victoria, he froze for more than 10 seconds before speaking haltingly. Elena, Victoria is the new intern assistant hired by the boss. This morning, when Victoria called, Marco had said the same thing. A newly hired assistant at the company. My brow twitched, and I casually asked, an assistant gets such an intimate contact name? Marco no longer flushed red with anger like before. Instead, he asked indifferently, what's wrong? Now you even want to control how I save contacts? Actually, once something was rotten, it was enough to throw it away. But 10 years of emotional entanglement and 10 years of tied interests, how could it be thrown away just because one said so? I spent 10 minutes listening to Marco's assistant explain. Actually, it could hardly be called an explanation. Back then, when I recommended him to stay by Marco's side, I had not had any extra thoughts. Marco and Victoria's story was also very simple. A female university student doing work-study rode an electric scooter to deliver food and crashed into a car she could not afford even if she delivered food for several lifetimes. The car owner happened to be a young, handsome, wealthy man. One desperately wanted to leave contact information and find a way to compensate him, while the other did not want any entanglement at all and did not even want compensation. Later, the boss hired Victoria into the company. I don't know the specifics either. Chapter 7. When my best friend's younger brother came out of the airport, I had just arrived. When our eyes met, I realized that I had forgotten to ask my best friend what her brother's name was. I could only force myself to greet him. Hello, new little brother. I'm your new sister's best friend, Elena. The new little brother was very pleasant to look at, and he looked quite nice when he smiled. He even followed my words and introduced himself. Hello, my new sister's best friend. My name is Justin. I received a call from my best friend. She asked me to send Justin to her house first. As I entered the destination into the navigation, I engaged in polite small talk. I heard you grew up abroad? Justin nodded and said he was not very familiar with the country. After moving his luggage into my best friend's house, I had just been about to leave when Justin suddenly called out to me. Sis, do you have anything to do this afternoon? I froze for a moment. Actually, I had many things to do that afternoon. For example, I had to confirm the evening gown I would wear to tomorrow's banquet with Marco. For example, I had to go to the mall to pick up the birthday gift I had ordered for Marco's mother. For example, I had to finalize the next stage of the contract renewal with Marco's company. But when Justin asked that question, I suddenly realized that these things did not seem important anymore. The door I had pushed open was closed again by me. I shook my head. Nothing much. What's up? Chapter 8. I never expected it. Justin actually dragged me into playing games at my best friend's house, and we played all the way until dark. During that time, my phone rang many times. I only sent a message to the company secretary, saying that the contract renewal would be postponed. As for anything related to Marco, I did not reply to a single one. When the doorbell rang, Justin and I had just cleared the game. Excitedly, I held his hand, a little thrilled. New little brother, you're amazing. Justin looked at me and smiled. He reached out and rubbed the top of my head. Then I'll cook later, to celebrate. I did not clearly hear what Justin said. I only noticed the hand he had placed on top of my head. The scene in the school auditorium suddenly flashed through my mind. The moment when Marco told Victoria to sit properly. Marco was extremely possessive. He never allowed me to have too much physical contact with the opposite sex. Justin had ordered fresh groceries for delivery. By the time I came back to myself, he had already carried the bags into the kitchen. I leaned against the doorway and looked at his busy figure, feeling a little embarrassed. Why don't we eat out? My treat. Justin insisted on eating at home, so I simply took an apron, tied it on, and helped him. I asked him, why did you think of having me play games? He asked me, do you feel a little better? Chapter 9. I did not attend the banquet the next day. Marco went with Victoria. His official explanation was that I had something urgent come up, so he asked Victoria, as his assistant, to be his female companion. A friend sent me photos from that night. Victoria was wearing my gown. It was Marco's birthday gift to me when I turned 27. By the time this reached my parents, several days had already passed. I secretly slipped out of the private room, found a quiet place, and video called them. Dad, Mom, I'm preparing to break up. I briefly told them how Victoria had joined the company. I guess they would also verify this matter with Marco's assistant. But the reason I gave for the breakup was that Marco and I no longer had feelings for each other. The two people on the screen froze for a long time, as if the video had lagged. Only after a long while did I hear their voices. It's Mom and Dad's fault. Our little girl. Don't be sad. As long as it's a decision you make, Mom and Dad will support you. I spent a long time calming my emotions in the restroom. After graduating from university, Marco never once brought up marriage. When both families asked Marco about it over meals more than once, he brushed it off every time with, right now, I want to focus on my career. Back then, my parents had asked me whether I still wanted to marry him. How could I not? Marco was the person I had liked since I was 17. When I returned to the private room, Justin walked unsteadily to my side and acted spoiled with me. Sis, they made me drink. Chapter 10. Justin was an esports player. This time, after returning to the country, several domestic clubs had extended offers to him. It just so happened that I had friends in the esports circle, so I organized a gathering. Justin was 22, having just graduated from university. He was good-looking, with 1/4 mixed heritage. Several of my female friends liked him the moment they saw him, hating themselves for having married too early. I jokingly teased them, "Weren't you the ones ordering male models before?" Later into the drinking, the married people left one after another. Before leaving, a friend urged me, "Elena, aren't you going back yet? Be careful. Your Marco might send someone to catch you soon." Holding my wine glass, I forced a smile. During those university years, it really had been like that. If I played outside for even a little too long, he would personally come to catch me. If there were men around, he could stand guard outside the private room the whole time. But now, Marco would not. These past few days, I had not gone home, and he had not gone back either. He did not ask, and I did not speak. It was as if we had become the kind of relationship we used to hate the most. Each playing our own game. Justin stared at my bare finger. "Sis, is that Marco guy the man who made you unhappy?" Because he had grown up abroad, Justin always had an inexplicably cute tone when he spoke. Even when he mentioned Marco, it did not make me feel so irritated. But just after he asked me, my phone received a message and a video. Chapter 11. I did not have the habit of saving names on WhatsApp, so I could not remember who the other person was. But I could tell that the other person's tone was malicious, especially when I saw the line, "Tisk, so you two never registered your marriage?" My heart felt as if it had been crushed by a truck. The fact that we had never registered our marriage, only Marco and I knew that. The night before the wedding, Marco discussed it with me. "Elena, let's register the marriage 2 years later." He said that our two companies cooperated on too many projects, some involving special matters, and registering the marriage would make things harder to explain. I knew it was an excuse, but I still agreed. My emotions were still affected. Justin must have noticed, so he helped me see each friend off one by one. When the private room quieted down, I tapped open the video. In the video, Marco and his good friends were leaning against the sofa. Victoria was sitting on Marco's lap. Her head was lowered, her eyes red. I heard someone joking, "Victoria, come to me. Marco is already married. You won't get any result by following him. He and his wife have already been together for 10 years. Don't let him fool you. Don't just look at how handsome he is." Actually, before he could finish speaking, Marco had already scolded angrily. "Shut up." He glanced toward the direction of the voice, then swept his gaze over the secretly filming camera. The next second, his voice was low and humble. "Be good. Actually, we never registered our marriage. I'm not lying to you." Chapter 12. When Justin came back, I had already opened another bottle of wine. More than half of it had been poured into my stomach. It burned hot. My thoughts were a little chaotic. Marco's face kept swaying before my eyes. Actually, I could not clearly say what exactly had gone wrong between Marco and me. During the 4 years of university, we ate and lived together. We brought each other openly into our own circles of friends without any avoidance. Later, we studied abroad together. Even though our schools were not in the same city, we still saw each other every 2 or 3 days. But it was just different. The change in feelings came unexpectedly. Justin strode over, wanting to snatch the glass from my hand. He frowned. "Stop drinking. You've had too much." I dodged backward while shaking the wine glass and smiling at him. "Little brother, drink with me for a while, please." These past few days, I had moved into the house I lived in before marriage. Justin often came to play with me. In addition, my best friend had originally entrusted me to help take care of him, so we had more and more contact, and I also felt more and more that he was quite cute. Justin sighed helplessly. He rolled up the cuffs of his shirt and pulled open several buttons at the collar. I did not know if the quality of the clothes was poor, but more than half of his chest was exposed. He suddenly bent down and reached out to pick me up. "Fine, I'll drink with you, but we can't drink here anymore." Chapter 13. From the clubhouse to my home. The drive only took 10 minutes. Justin carried me into the living room and placed me on the sofa, while he went to cook hangover soup. I had already kicked off my high heels. Barefoot, I ran to the wine cabinet. I picked out 2 bottles of good wine. Drink. Little brother, are you incapable? I put my hands on my waist. The alcohol had already gone to my head early on. Young people could not be provoked. When he pushed me down onto the sofa, I was a little dazed, especially when I heard Justin say, "Elena, I like you." My brain directly crashed. Whether he liked me or not, it was not important. My mind was full of drinking. Justin laughed softly and said I was a little drunkard. He did not ask me what had happened that night. If I wanted to drink, he drank with me. His smile looked so good, much better than the male models my friends ordered. I had really become bold, or maybe I really was that drunk. I actually chose another way to release my emotions. In short, I had already forgotten who took the initiative. Justin used action to prove to me that one could not say young people were incapable. I was carried to the heights again and again, then dropped back down. At the end, I bit into the shoulder of the person above me. Chapter 14. I blacked out. If the bite mark had not matched, I definitely would not have admitted it. Justin did not make a fuss either. He just quietly looked at me, his eyes red. Fortunately, the phone under the bed rang. I was so excited that I fumbled around in a panic, not daring to meet Justin's eyes for even one more second. But the next moment, I saw that it was my best friend calling. My heart turned to ashes. "Elena, are you with my brother?" "Wait, from your voice, Elena, don't tell me you got back together with Marco." My heart went up and down like I was on a roller coaster. When Justin heard Marco's name, his expression became more and more aggrieved. I awkwardly shrank into the blanket and explained guiltily, "We didn't get back together. I drank yesterday and just woke up." My best friend breathed a sigh of relief. "My mom called my brother this morning, but he didn't answer. She's a little worried. If it's convenient, help me go to my house and check on him." I braced myself and said okay. Justin gave a soft cold snort. My best friend's excited voice was decisively cut off by me. "Holy shit, Elena, you've finally grown capable." "Yes, that's exactly how it should be. If Marco cheated on you, you have to cheat back." Chapter 15. You're married. "I didn't know. I didn't see you wearing a wedding ring. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ruin your marriage." Justin struck first. The more he said this, the guiltier I felt, especially since he was my best friend's new little brother, and his expression looked so aggrieved, like a pitiful puppy about to be abandoned by its owner. I bit my still slightly swollen lips. "No, it was my fault." Justin raised his head. "Okay, then how do you plan to make it up to me?" "Huh?" I looked up, shocked. Then I saw the fleeting, sparkling mischief in his eyes. Putting aside all those messy relationships, I actually did quite like Justin. He cooked well and had 8-pack abs. He was considerate and attentive, and had 8-pack abs. He was good-looking and had 8-pack abs. But this kind of thing was also the first time I had encountered it. I had never thought that I would have a relationship with a man other than Marco. I hesitated, truly not knowing how to speak. The atmosphere in the bedroom grew heavier and heavier. I awkwardly tugged at the corner of my lips and was just about to speak when I heard Justin say, "Then, I can only be the other man." Chapter 16. The news that Marco and I had never registered our marriage quickly spread through the circle. Marco also stopped hiding it. He took Victoria to many gatherings. We had many mutual friends. When they sent me photos and videos, they were all somewhat incredulous. "Elena, has Marco gone crazy? This Victoria or whatever is miles away from you. I truly can't understand it." I did not really know how to reply. I had already begun arranging for all cooperation with Marco's company to stop one after another. After the contracts expired, they would no longer be renewed. Marco did not contact me. His assistant called me several times. "Elena, Marco said that if you don't renew within 3 days, there will never be another chance to cooperate in the future." 3 days after 3 days. Several 3-day deadlines passed. Marco taking Victoria out was hard to say was not deliberately meant for me to see. When I replied to messages, Justin was rubbing his hair against the hollow of my neck. He glanced at the screen, his voice humming and aggrieved. Sis, you lied to me. Justin had clearly placed himself in the position of the other man, especially since there was still a faint wedding ring mark on my ring finger. I explained several times. He and I never registered our marriage. We only held a wedding. I even messaged Marco in front of him. Find a time to talk about breaking up. Justin smiled happily. Originally, he had already believed me, but these past few days, more and more friends had contacted me, so he stopped believing me again. Chapter 17. When Marco and I appeared at the same event, the situation was somewhat complicated. A friend was getting married soon. He had organized a bachelor party. Marco said he was not coming, so I came. The result was that I brought Justin, and he brought Victoria. Our friend was so nervous he stammered. And no, I smiled and handed him the gift. Congratulations. The photo on your marriage certificate looks very nice. Oh, right. The gift is for your wife, not for you. I would not be able to attend their wedding day. I had promised Justin that I would go watch his first match in the country. Marco stared at Justin for a long time. His gaze moved from Justin's face to Justin's hand around my waist, and his expression darkened terribly, so his tone when he asked me was not pleasant either. Elena. Who is he? I copied his manner. My gaze moved from Victoria's face to Marco's hand holding hers. My tone was contemptuous. What does it have to do with you? Marco's expression became even uglier. He let go of Victoria's hand and grabbed my wrist. Elena, don't go too far. We're already married. Don't forget that. Chapter 18. Marco and I had been together for 10 years. Even if we did not speak of love, there was always something like family affection. After our college entrance exam engagement, our two families spent New Year together every year. The businesses of the two families also gradually began to cooperate because of this, and even became more and more deeply tied together. So breaking up was not an easy matter, but business still had to be done. It would just be done with someone else. Marco refused to talk to me. I thought that, like me, he was busy finding another path. I never expected that Marco would actually say, "We're already married." The corners of my lips pressed downward. I let out a mocking laugh. Justin pushed Marco away and lowered his head to look at my wrist, which had been gripped red. 1 second. He was asking me, "Does it hurt?" The next second, he had already rushed in front of Marco, grabbed Marco by the collar, and smashed his fist into him. Victoria cried out in alarm. The people who had originally been watching the show hurried over to break up the fight. The corner of Marco's mouth was bleeding. Justin had gained the upper hand. I tugged at Justin's clothes and apologized to my friend. "I won't come to this kind of gathering anymore. Sorry for causing you trouble. Let's go. We're going home." Chapter 19. I did not quite approve of Justin using violence, even though he had done it to vent my anger. On the way back, I gripped the steering wheel, my gaze fixed on the road ahead the whole time. I did not say a word. Justin softly hissed several times. I ignored him. Only when we reached the parking lot did I shift my gaze to his face. I asked him, "Does it hurt?" Marco had trained in boxing for years, the kind where one punch could cripple someone. Justin straightened his body and looked serious. "I'm sorry, sis." I raised an eyebrow. Justin continued. "I just couldn't stand him. I didn't pay attention to the occasion. Sis, I won't do it again next time." I could hardly resist Justin like this, especially when he called me sis. I did not dwell on the matter anymore. I took the first aid kit out of the cabinet and treated his wounds for him. The corners of Justin's lips were curved in a smile the whole time, like he had won a battle. I had never coaxed anyone before. When I dated Marco in the past, he was always the one coaxing me. And thanks to him, a couple of days ago, I had managed to learn from his example, holding up the video of him coaxing Victoria to coax Justin. "See? I told you I never registered the marriage." Chapter 20. I felt like a scumbag. After I began examining my relationship with Justin, I actually wanted to avoid it. Fortunately, before the match, Justin had to attend training camp. My best friend came back from her business trip. She happened to make it in time to send Justin off. She sat in my passenger seat, looking at me for a while, then at Justin in the back seat. She seemed confused. "What's going on?" I moved my lips but said nothing. In the rearview mirror, Justin's gaze stayed on me the entire time. He crossed his arms, turned his head to one side, and gave a cold snort. To be precise, it was more like a little huff. That night, I had a talk with Justin about the two of us. I did not know why he liked me. Justin did not understand. Why does liking someone need a reason? I froze. Time seemed to instantly return to 10 years ago. I had asked Marco the same question. He had also told me, Elena, I like you. This doesn't need any reason. I was very greedy. I wanted to keep liking someone forever and ever. So I told him, maybe it would be better if we slowed down a little. Justin agreed. When I came out after showering, he had left. There was a note left on the table, and a glass of milk at just the right temperature. Chapter 21. When we met again. It was now. These past few mornings, I could still eat hot breakfast. Justin made it at my best friend's house and brought it to me. He rang the doorbell and left. When I opened the door, several times, I saw his figure disappearing into the elevator. Because of my breakup with Marco, work at the company had piled up like a mountain. At noon, Justin would prepare lunch and personally deliver it to the front desk, but only as far as the front desk. He did not come upstairs. He only sent me a message reminding me, eat on time. At night, I was always working overtime at the company. When I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down, Justin was sitting on the flower bed downstairs. This kind of passionate companionship that asked for no response surprised me a little. After Justin left, my best friend crossed her arms and sized me up. Her stare made my scalp tingle. I took a deep breath. That wild man is my brother? I nodded. I did not even dare to look my best friend in the eyes. Great. Good fortune shouldn't flow to outsiders. My best friend laughed so hard she bent forward and backward, making a fuss and asking me to call her sis. I felt even more like a scumbag. On the contrary, my best friend persuaded me. Everyone is an adult. Everyone knows what they're doing. Don't you think so? Chapter 22. I knew my best friend was making a double meaning. At first, she was the only one who knew that Marco and I had not registered our marriage. She had been quite unhappy about it. She had even advised me, Elena, Marco isn't the only man in the world. Of course I knew that, but I was just that kind of person. My best friend hugged me. Have you two talked? I shook my head and sighed. Marco was unwilling to talk to me. After returning from our friends' gathering that day, Marco fired Victoria. Marco's assistant called me several times, but I hung up every time. A friend sent me a video of Marco drinking alone. The tone carried some mockery. He really thought you would wait for him forever. I went home once, the home Marco and I shared. All the lights were off. I thought no one was home. Only after turning on the lights did I realize that Marco was sitting on the sofa, staring straight at me. It was terrifying. He laughed softly. You're back. I stopped walking and simply answered, That day, when I moved out, I had been in a hurry, so there were still some things I had not taken back. He stood up and walked to my side. He wanted to hold my hand. I can explain to you about Victoria. Chapter 23. As for him and Victoria, I already knew very clearly. Victoria was only the final straw in my decision to break up. I avoided Marco's touch and carried a box into the study. It was called a study, but it was more like the gaming room Marco and I shared. This marital home had already been renovated when we were in university. I liked playing games. Marco had specially cleared out a room and decorated it according to my preferences. Only later, we only played together once or twice in total. Marco did not like it. He said, playing ruins ambition. It's a waste of time. Over time, I simply rarely came in anymore. I looked around, moved a stool over, and stood on it. Several of my trophies were placed on the highest shelf. I carefully placed them into the box. Marco watched me silently, his fingers resting on the door handle and curling slightly. These past 2 days, I played that game you mentioned. It's pretty fun. I turned back and looked at him inexplicably. And then? Marco moved his lips, his voice a little dry. I'll accompany you from now on. I ignored him, holding the box. I went to the bedroom. When I opened the wardrobe, there were many new clothes with the tags still attached. I saw that your old clothes were all gone, so I bought you new ones, Elena. I didn't sleep with her. Chapter 24. I could not describe what I felt, nor did I know what kind of reaction Marco wanted from me. From the moment I entered, he wanted to speak several times but stopped. Wherever I went, he followed. Whichever thing I looked at for one more second, he would follow up with a sentence or two. Even the couple mug that had shattered that day had been properly placed on the table. After circling around and around, he finally circled his way to this one sentence. This time, it was my turn to laugh. I turned back and smiled brightly, but I slept with him. I stared carefully at Marco, watching his still calm face slowly turn frantic inch by inch. His eyes widened, clearly unable to believe it. Elena, that joke isn't funny at all. Don't make it again. Oh, he did not believe me. I lifted my eyes to look at him and shrugged. Believe it or not. He paused, and his voice trembled a little. Impossible. What was impossible about it? I did not understand. Looking at him, suddenly, I realized that the 17-year-old him in my memory had long since become so blurry that I could no longer see him clearly. I had accepted Marco's change, and I had also accepted the fact that Marco seemed to no longer love me. After thinking about it, I explained to him very seriously, Marco, it's because I don't love you anymore. Chapter 25. Having a wandering eye. I really hated this phrase, because at this moment, Marco's mother was holding my hand and repeatedly emphasizing it. What man doesn't have a wandering eye? Marco already knows he was wrong. He has already turned back. Hearing her say that, I instead breathed a sigh of relief. The night my best friend came back, we talked all night. My best friend asked me, then what attitude do you think Marco's parents will have? After Marco and I got engaged, I changed how I addressed them. I had called his parents mom and dad for 10 years, and he had called my parents mom and dad for 10 years. I smiled and said nothing. Whether I was their biological child or not, they could still tell the difference. Would they help the right side rather than their own family? No. Marco was smoking outside. My parents originally said they wanted to come back. On the surface, they said that, after all, this was a matter between two families. In reality, they were afraid I would be wronged. I told them to enjoy their trip with peace of mind. It was only this little matter. I stared at Marco for a while. Auntie, call Marco in. I changed how I addressed her naturally, but Marco's mother's expression stiffened. She pulled Marco over and slapped his arm. You explained the mistake you made yourself. I tugged at the corner of my lips. Even though I knew they were acting, I still felt a little irritated. Marco asked me what it would take for me to forgive him. That day, my ring was accidentally lost in the school trash can. Why don't we talk after you find it? Chapter 26. Marco knew I was doing it on purpose, just like I knew he had done it on purpose. He said his ring was lost, so he replaced it with a plain silver band matching Victoria's. But the ring was with Victoria, becoming a trophy Victoria used to show off to me. There were many people in my WhatsApp list. I truly could not remember who the kind person who sent me the video was, until after Marco fired Victoria. That kind person sent me many photos of Marco and Victoria. Ambiguous ones, explicit ones. They reminded me of Marco's line, I didn't sleep with her. Some things did not have to go all the way into count. I replied with a question mark. The kind person did not reply. Instead, they continued sending photos. The last photo made me pause for a moment. Marco's lost ring. I replied with another question mark, but then I saw a red exclamation mark. The kind person had deleted me. The kind person was Victoria. It was not as if I were stupid, but I did not tell Marco. Their rotten mess between the two of them was something I was too lazy to get involved in. I bit the straw, a little lost in thought. My best friend waved her hand in front of my eyes, anxiously speaking up. Marco regrets it? What are you thinking? Elena, don't be stupid. When it comes to men cheating, it only happens 0 times or countless times. Chapter 27. I shook my head. After that day, Marco stopped looking for me. Marco's parents called my parents. Their meaning was that divorce was not a small matter, and perhaps the two families should sit down and talk. My parents cursed them out. I told them that Marco and I had never registered the marriage. They sighed deeply and repeatedly. The scene of coaxing Justin flashed suddenly through my mind. He held me, both surprised and delighted. You never registered the marriage? Then I'm not the other man? Then I don't have to wait very long? It's fine, even if I had to wait for a long time. I'd still be willing. I smiled. Actually, not registering the marriage was pretty good too. My parents thought I was forcing myself to be strong. After thinking about it, I was still honest with them, although it's a little fast. I think I may have someone I like. When my phone rang, my best friend and I had just sat down in the audience seats. Justin's voice finally sounded in my ear again after a long time. Sis, I saw you. I missed you so much. I was so surprised that I looked around everywhere, but I did not see him. Justin said there was a live broadcast of the audience seats backstage. They were making their final preparations, and he wanted to call me to hear my voice. The pre-match training camp was almost completely closed. We had rarely been in contact. As soon as the call ended, my best friend tugged at my sleeve. Elena, that looks like Marco. Chapter 28. It was Marco and Victoria. Victoria was excitedly saying something to Marco. I withdrew my gaze, feeling no particular emotion. I was a little surprised, but I also felt that it made sense. My best friend, however, was furious. Didn't he say they were done? Didn't he say he fired her? Is he really planning to keep you in the dark? One at home and one outside? I comforted her. All right. Didn't he fail to fool me? It was not until the match ended. Justin's team won first place, and only then did my best friend's mood improve a little. I took many photos. My best friend used my phone to send them to herself. She had been so angry that she did not take a single photo the entire time. She had been glaring at Marco and Victoria. When the staff came to find us, Justin was being interviewed. The closer I got to the backstage area, the faster my heart beat. When I saw Justin, my best friend reached out and pushed me, holding a bouquet of flowers. I jogged up to Justin. Only when he pulled me into his arms did I confirm it. We're together, officially. My best friend's phone finally came in handy. She secretly took several photos of us. Justin chased after her for them, insisting no matter what that he wanted to use one as his phone wallpaper. My own dear sister. Send them to me. I'll pay. I'll transfer the money right now. Chapter 29. When Justin introduced me to his team members, a staff member suddenly knocked on the door. Sir, a fan wants to take a photo with you. They greeted us in advance. The person who had just been clinging to me and acting spoiled suddenly became serious. As soon as he followed the staff member out, his teammates started gossiping. They said Justin was quite famous abroad. My best friend smiled. So what? Our Elena competed abroad before too. Champion. I gave a dry laugh. I felt quite guilty. During the 2 years I studied abroad, I had indeed participated in competitions. The trophies I had specifically gone back to the marital home to retrieve that day were from those 2 years. But that was already a long time ago. Holy shit! Don't tell me you're XYZ. I remember that during those 2 years, there was only one women's team, and they even won the championship. I nodded awkwardly. I told them to help keep it a secret for me. X, Y, Z, Elena and Marco. If Justin found out, his jealousy would overturn an entire vinegar jar. As soon as I finished speaking, the door was pushed open from outside. A staff member hurriedly ran in and called me out. She said Justin had gotten into an argument with a fan. Chapter 30. My brow twitched. I hurriedly ran out. I saw Justin facing off against Marco. I checked Justin from head to toe and, after confirming there was nothing wrong, shifted my gaze to Marco's face. I raised an eyebrow. So Victoria was Justin's fan. No wonder that day at our friend's gathering, Victoria kept staring at Justin's face. Victoria held Marco's arm and looked at me smugly. Compared with chasing a celebrity, Victoria looked more like she had come to show off. Marco, on the other hand, when he saw me come out, he clearly seemed a little at a loss. Of course, that helplessness might also have been an act. After all, during the previous period, he had done quite a bit to establish a persona in our shared circle of friends. A prodigal son who had turned back. A deeply affectionate man waiting faithfully. Even now, his WhatsApp profile picture was still a photo of us together. I pulled Justin back toward the lounge. Before leaving, I still reminded Marco, change your profile picture. It looks pretty unlucky. As for Victoria, I did not really want to say much to her. I thought for a long time about when Victoria and I had added each other on WhatsApp. Later, it was my company secretary who reminded me. School was about to start. The new list of sponsored students needed to be confirmed. Chapter 31. Victoria was one of the students whose sponsorship I had rejected. The homeroom teacher was right. She had been born into a family that favored sons over daughters, but that was only limited to her biological father. After her mother remarried, her stepfather treated her very well. After the college entrance exam, she squandered the living expenses her stepfather had given her. The day the sponsorship application list was given to me, I happened to pass by the school. That day, I added over a dozen students on WhatsApp. There were both boys and girls. I did not remember Victoria's name, but I remembered that girl who had deliberately dressed herself up to look poor. After the background check, I crossed her off the sponsorship list. 2 years passed. I had already forgotten her, and she took the initiative to find Marco. I had someone retrieve the surveillance footage from the intersection where she ran into Marco. A deliberate wait, a deliberate rush out, deliberate stubbornness and resilience, deliberate pitiful tears. I did not know how she had set her sights on Marco, but Marco had taken the bait. Hadn't he? I did not tell Marco about this. Chapter 32. I did not know how long Justin and I could last. Justin said, "It's okay, sis. It's okay for us to take it slow." He did not want to pressure me. Yes, it was okay to take it slow. But later, a very long time passed. A truly long time. Long enough for Marco to discover Victoria's true colors. Long enough for Marco to have changed 4 or 5 girlfriends. Long enough for Marco and me to run into each other at countless events, where he would coldly ask me, "Still not married? Did you break up?" I lost my composure again, but Justin had gone abroad for a competition. Even dragging him back to get married and slap Marco in the face would be difficult. I really was someone who could not keep her composure. My best friend called me, late at night. I went to the restaurant she sent me, carrying a stomach full of complaints. The moment I arrived at the door, only then did I realize something was wrong. No, I was not wearing makeup. I turned around and wanted to run, but Justin's voice sounded from behind me. "Elena, try running." Chapter 33. Justin proposed. Who understands this? He started a live stream, broadcasting it to my parents, and to his biological father and new mother. Oh, right. And also to his fans. Justin said that he had liked me from a very long time ago, back when I was still XYZ. He said the Z through gritted teeth. I trembled. When young people love, they love passionately and fiercely. What kind of love? How fierce? I will not say.